Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chirping Zebras, episode 21. Mark Riley, normally alongside Gino Bender Jr., but he's out in the Zoom world tonight. And we come to you from AOA Studios, our favorite place in Beverly to tape a podcast or anything you need to tape. And we also want to thank our sponsor, Referees Crease, your one-stop shop for all your refereeing needs. And we are very excited for our guest tonight. We actually have two guests on tonight. The first one is the Boston Bruins alumni president, Frank Simonetti, who played for the Boston Bruins back in the 80s, and also Captain Ryan CROLEY, who is the founder and president of the Warrior for Life Fund. So welcome, gentlemen, to Chirping Zebras.
Welcome.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
No, we're really excited about this one. I want to start off by telling you, now, should I call you Captain or Ryan or Captain CROLEY? What do you want to go with? Because I want to be respectful.
Yeah, I think Ryan works great. And just a little truth in lending up front is I'm retired naval officer and all my opinions are my own and don't belong to the Navy.
Very good.
Love it.
How's that?
Love it. And I just want to be respectful because you are a former Navy SEAL, and that means you probably could kill me in multiple ways. So I want to make sure we're okay. I want to start out and let you know, my dad, we have an affinity for the Navy here because my dad fought in World War II on a destroyer escort in the South Pacific. And we talked about it actually a couple episodes ago. And it was pretty awesome hearing his stories from back in the day and when things were obviously a little different than they are now. But first and foremost, thank you for your service.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And thank you to your, you said your grandfather or your father?
My father. Yeah, I was a mistake. He was older when I was born. He was 45. So a lot of people like, how is your dad in World War II? But yeah, he was on the USS Canfield and escorted, his ship was one of the ships that escorted the Missouri into Tokyo Bay when they signed the surrender. So
wow,
pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty historic, pretty amazing. I'm always, every time I get a chance to speak to those veterans, I'm always amazed at the situation they were put in, given the lack of, or the amount of training that they had and what the responsibilities that they were given. Pretty amazing time frame.
Yeah, he enlisted when he was 17. He lied so we could get in. And we always joke and say, find me a 17-year-old now that will jump into a war, even put their cell phone down, let alone jump into a war. So it was definitely a different time back then. And Gino has some relatives also in the Navy.
Both my grandfathers, they served in the Navy. They were on, warships and stuff like that. My grandfather said he basically swept the deck. That's about it. But, I had a great uncle that served. He could speak 6, 7 different languages. He'd tell you all sorts of war stories. But, yeah, it was great to, have you guys on, and this is unbelievable. So,
yeah. Well, Mark, a couple things I'll reflect back on you. One, I'll tell you that your dad being an older father, I'm in that situation too. I'm on my second franchise now. I have a 24-year-old and a 2-year-old. So if you hear them running in this room, that's what I'm dealing with. I get confused for a grandfather just about every day. And then also, I'll tell you, my dad, you're speaking about your father who was 17 when he lied and enlisted, which I think was a common thing for the times. My dad was drafted at age 18 and served in Vietnam at 19 and was severely wounded at about 19 and a half. So, those are just different times. I look at my kids today and who have an 18-year-old and just, I couldn't imagine her being in a combat zone, kind of dealing with those things. So pretty righteous.
Yeah, it's amazing. And Frank, your time with the Bruins, I don't want to take away from the awesomeness that you had, because you played with one of my complete and utter favorite players of all time, Cam Neely. So that is huge as well.
Yeah, I was very fortunate, Mark, to grow up just 10 miles from Boston Garden and have a chance to play with Cam and Ray Bork and Terry O'Reilly and Rick Middleton, to having gone from watching them on TV to sitting next to them on the bench. was a little awe-inspiring for the first few weeks, and then you get into the rhythm. But I consider myself very fortunate to have played for the home team, and then having the chance to be involved in the alumni association for going on 35 years now.
Wow. Yeah, it is. It's every Boston kid's dream, right? To play for the Boston Bruins. I mean, and you got to live that dream, which is so cool.
Well, back then, it really wasn't a viable dream, as most of the players in the NHL were Canadian. There was a little bit of European influx, but the American players were few and far between. And I look at it as the Bruins won in 70 and 72. And locally, a lot of kids, their parents put them into hockey because of their love of Bobby Orr and Chief and Pye and all those guys. And, come out 18 years later, you get a whole crop of young, good hockey players that then matriculated into D1, D2, and T3 schools. And then, from a talent level, were viable candidates to play in the NHL. And that's when to me, the real sprinkling started, the real infiltration of American players into the NHL.
Funny you say
And
that.
you went to Norwich. Oh, go ahead, Gino.
Oh no, it's funny you say that. I live in Weymouth right now, and Charlie Coyle's huge in Weymouth. Like you should see all the kids flocking to the rinks. I help coach there, and it's great to see all the players coming in. And even the street hockey program there is phenomenal. And Charlie, he's always getting whipped out for anything that's there, and he's great in the community. And it's awesome to see, and it's got to be awesome for him to play for the Bruins, just being hometown cooking. And my sister teaches with his mother, and my wife worked at the school. My daughters went there and knows his mother pretty well, and she couldn't be more thrilled to have her son play for the Boston Bruins. How was that for your family playing in Boston? Never mind yourself.
Well, I'll say Charlie's a class act, and he certainly represents his town of Weymouth and in the city of Boston well. It was interesting in that you didn't expect it, and when it did happen, you had a lot of attention, not only in your hometown within your family, but every kid you went to grade school,
Right.
high school, Norwich. As Mark mentioned, I went to Norwich. It was a big deal for everybody that my family and I touched over the years, and with that came a lot of. Do you have any tickets?
Yeah, right.
The games.
How was the pressure, right? Like, how was that on that back end? Because I get that even reffing games sometimes, like, hey, bean pots or whatever, right? So, like, that could be a lot of stress on you going into the games, never mind, all that other kind of stuff.
Yeah. There's the off ice stuff that was more pressure packed, if you will. Once you step on the ice, and you have the same experience. Once the whistle blows and the horn sounds, you're all business, and you drown out the crowd, you drown out the thoughts. That's one of the things that one of the benefits of hockey is when you get on the ice, you can forget everything because it's such a complicated sport to play and to execute at any level, let alone a high level. And I know we'll get into talking about the Warrior for Life Fund at some point, but hockey is a therapeutic tool. It cuts out all the noise. You get out there and you play. It's competitive. There's highs and lows on the ice. There's gratification. Endorphins are flowing. You feel good when you play, and you feel good when you get off the ice. You feel good to be part of a team. So, on ice, no problem. Off the ice, you get just a lot of interest in what you're doing, which in most cases is a fun thing to be part of.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. Now, and Ryan, as far as hockey is concerned, because I know you're a big hockey guy. How did hockey find, how did you find hockey? Was it something you played growing up? Or was it something that you found later on?
Yeah. So I grew up in Toledo, Ohio, big football community. And a lot of people that learned to play hockey and are playing hockey now, and especially then, I think you had to have some resources to play hockey, or, it was expensive. And I didn't grow up in a family that could have afforded something like that, 5 kids. And so, football, baseball was our sport. And then I went into the SEAL teams Spent a couple of years there, and then they asked me to go back to school, as in the SEAL teams, and go get a master's degree, which is required of all 04 mid-grade officers in the military. So I went up to the War College after a number of rotations overseas, and I wanted something to do. I wanted to learn something new. I wanted to stay out of the bars. I wanted to stay out of trouble. And I picked up hockey, right down the road. They just put it in Boss Arena right outside of URI. So every day I'd skip out of school like 11 o'clock, go play hockey for a couple hours in like 2006. And I just got caught on it. I just loved it. So I, pretty much became a fanatic after that, learned the game as best I could. We actually went to a couple adult camps, week-long camps, got beat up, and I just loved it. Just loved the grit of the game. Like Frank was describing, love the camaraderie. It's tough and it's competitive. And when you step on the ice, you kind of just lose yourself and lose all the other problems because you got so many things happening out there at one time. So, and I couldn't be more excited about it or happy about it today. It's absolutely my favorite sport. I looked back the other day and I think I've been playing hockey now longer than any other sport in my life. I guess it's a reflection of how old I am, but that's how it all started.
That's awesome. Toledo had an East Coast Hockey League team when I was refereeing down there.
Yeah, there was the Gold Diggers for a while.
They're the walleye.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they're the number one facility I'm hearing ranked in the ECHL because of the tightness of the arena. It's a nice new arena. It's loud. Fans are awesome. So correct me if I'm wrong on that.
I will correct you if you're wrong. I worked the first year in that building. I was kind of upset because I heard their old building was like a barn. Like they like leaned over, like they were just on top of you. That everybody was just loud and obnoxious. Like that just
was on the east side of the river. Yeah.
Yes. And then they built this brand new building. So it was the first year my first year in the Coast League. I was living in Reading, Pennsylvania, and they had that building brand new facility. I absolutely hated it. One, because the ice was slow. It burned your legs. It was just like one of those places I just felt like I had a bad game once, and that was the end of it for me. Like every time I went there, just all the pressure and whatever. That was for me, but it's a phenomenal building. It's gorgeous. To me, I just didn't like the ice, and that was the only thing.
Yeah.
But other than that, the facility is absolutely gorgeous. It's an awesome building. And it would be
it was a big thing for Toledo. They automotive industry. They kind of went flat for a little while, and they reinvigorated the downtown area. And
they got a minor league baseball team too, right? That's right there.
Yeah, the Mud Hens right down the road, and they consolidated that. I think they did a great job. Took them a long time to get there, and I'll give them a call and see what they can do about the ice.
That old barn was a great barn to skate because it was kind of like literally a barn, if I remember correctly.
Sweeney worked there. I never did, Ross. Yeah. Sweeney.
Yeah, it was crazy. And up north, those like Toledo and Dayton and Columbus, they all hated each other.
It was a good love-hate.
Yeah. The one time I was up in Toledo, Insane Clown Posse, that crazy band, was playing in like somewhere near the rink, and I'm out eating lunch, and all these people dressed as insane clowns, I guess is what they call, or I don't even know what they call them, gigolos. That's what they call the people. and I said to the waitress, I go, "What the hell is going on?" And she told me I had never heard of them before, and they were everywhere, and it was crazy, and some of them were in the stands too that night. And it was just that's the one memory of Toledo I have is not a hockey memory, but I digress. Now going back to the hockey thing with the teams, I'm assuming that because as we all know, playing hockey, your teammates are like your family, right? And whoever you play with, like I know my college teammates, we hook up now and it's like we didn't, it's like yesterday. Frank, I'm sure it's the same way with you with the Bruins. I'm sure that hockey and hockey teams kind of relates a lot to SEAL teams and the military.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I'll pounce on that one, Frank. Frank and I've had a number of discussions on this, and it's they're almost the same athlete, right? They're all, for the most part, skilled athletes at this point. It's kind of what we are. Our size and shape are about the same. We've got to be able to run, 10 miles at a time. We've got to be able to do some tough climbs with your own body weight. So, we're not finding, you're not finding the offensive tackle in the SEAL teams, generally, you just can't do it. I know there's some big Zdeno Charos in the NHL that, recently got out, but those guys, you look at Zdeno Chara today, he's running marathons, he's doing all kinds of stuff. And so Frank and I have reflected, like, it's the same type of athlete. And then the flow of the game for what you do in hockey and what you do, say, in close quarter battle in the SEAL teams really feels the same. You're going out, you're supporting your teammate as best you can based on the situation that you see. Things are moving fast, not a lot of time to think. And we kind of assess and bring in those people that can make decisions at that level, kind of similar to, when you're talking about Frank at Norwich, you're kind of assessing and recruiting the right guys that kind of think and feel and can perform it in that way.
That's really cool. And Norwich, isn't Norwich
Military.
what do they call that? Is it a military or paramilitary or whatever they call it?
It's a private military school, so you go
That's
there. You're not obligated to go into the service, but you do. You can wear a uniform. You can be part of the ROTC program there. And how they run it is after your sophomore year, you can declare to go into a service. And that summer, you go to boot camp for the respective service. You come back to Norwich in your junior year. You take advanced ROTC courses and training. And when you graduate, you graduate as an officer, second lieutenant.
Wow.
Or second class officer in whatever service you're in, and you go off and you serve your 4 or 7 years, depending on what you signed up for. So there's a choice point. When I went to Norwich, I had an inclination to pursue a military career. It's something I have a high level of respect for the military. I always thought it would be something that I'd want to do. But during my freshman year playing hockey, scouts started to come around a little bit and ask about me and, come to some of my games. And at the end of sophomore year, I said, well, maybe hockey could be something. So I chose not to pursue the military career and pursued my engineering degree and kind of worked hard to do well at hockey to see where it took me.
Oh, it took you right to the NHL, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I was very, very fortunate. Again, back then, Division III schools was what Norwich was. Didn't pop a lot of kids into the NHL, but I was an All-American. That gets you on a certain number of lists. I was invited by Joe Lyons, at the time was the Bruins local scout, New England scout.
CROLEY.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
Invited
Lyons really very well.
to play in his summer league, on a summer league team at Hingham, which was a pro-am league. And a lot of guys who had been drafted or had played in the minors, a couple of NHL guys were there. And he said, hey, if you do well in this summer league, you might get an invitation to the Bruins camp. So I said, yeah, why not? So that was the only opportunity I had. So played in the summer league, turned down some job offers and said, you know what, this could be something. Halfway through the summer league, I got the invite to the Bruins camp. So I had done well enough in Joe's eyes to warrant an invitation to camp. So that fall, again, turned down 3 engineering jobs. All 3 of them thought I was crazy because engineers and hockey don't necessarily go together, at least the people in that world. And they said, we'll see you in a few months, kind of thing. You'll be coming back to us. But fortunately, things worked out. Training camp went well for me. Ended up playing in 9 of the 11 preseason games that year, which was kind of unheard of. The second to last preseason game was against the New Jersey Devils up in Portland, Maine. And that's the game that Bruce Driver took Gord Kluzak's knees out. He was out for the season. And that was the first time I thought, whoa, there's a chance here. Our last game, preseason preseason game was against the New York Islanders at Providence Civic Center against the 4-time defending Stanley Cup champion New York Islanders with their full lineup, Billy Smith and net, Bossy, the whole gang. I ended up scoring I signed my contract on the bus on the way down to the game, scored the winning goal in overtime, and I was somebody else at that point in time. I didn't know who I was. I wasn't the kid from Stoneham. I was just living a different life. And it was interesting because most of the kids that go to camp have been there. They know people that have been to camps. They know the rules of the road. I knew none of this. All during camp, they're sending guys back to juniors. They're releasing people that then at some point they're sending down to the AHL training camp. No one says anything to me. Camp ends. I don't know where to go, what to do. I asked the assistant equipment manager, Bud Carpenter, Bud, where do I go? He says, hey, you made the team. Whoa, hey.
You found out?
Free agent walk on from Norwich University made the team, right? So, whoa.
Pretty big deal.
Pretty big deal. So 3 days later, we had a couple practices at the old Boston Garden. The Bruins were always participating in this Hollowback Logan golf tournament, something they did every year. The whole team would go down and play. So I'm out there playing, and then fifth hole or whatever, this golf cart comes out to the hole I'm on. This girl says, "Are you Frank Simonetti?" I said, "Yes, I am." Mr. Sinden would like you to give him a call. Gives me a phone number and a piece of paper. I said, "Oh, this can't be good, right?" So when I'm telling this story to kids, I said, and I go find a payphone. Okay, I have to describe to them what that is.
Right.
That's right.
10 cents.
Right, put the quarter in, the diamond, whatever it
I would
was.
have called collect.
Yeah, well, yeah. Maybe if I'd have known for sure. I said, "Hello, Mr. Sinden. This is Frank Simonetti." He said, "Frank, you had a great camp, but we'd like to send you down to Hershey for some seasoning." Boom. And I was like, world crashes down. And well, it turns out they had a couple of guys on one-way contracts, and they had to move some players. And so I go down to Hershey, and at the time, the Bruins rented 7 or 8 spots on the Philadelphia Flyers
Right.
farm team in
They still
Hershey,
do that,
Pennsylvania.
yeah.
So we were, kind of second-class citizens. The Flyers players got most of the ice time. There'd be games where 3 or 4 of us Bruins would be sitting on the end of the bench, not having been put in the game. The coach would go, "Oh, sorry, I forgot about you guys."
Right.
So I'm thinking, maybe those companies that hired me that said, "We'll see you in a couple months," were right? Do I want to do this? Well, 2 days before Christmas, heading home anyway, get the call, "Hey, you're going up to play in the Montreal Canadian game at home at Boston Garden, and 2 days before Christmas." So I go up and I play. I play really well. 6 shifts. I remember them like they're yesterday. And Tom Johnson comes up and says, "Hey, kid," he's the assistant general manager. He's got a cigar and he's limping because he's got a bad hip. And says, "Hey, kid, how'd you think you did?" I said, "Well, TJ, I think I did pretty well." He goes, "I do too." And he walks away. Now we have 2 days off for Christmas. Day after Christmas, we come back for practice. I'm in the same boat. The team's about to leave for a 12-day West Coast trip. I go to my man, Bud Carpenter again. "Bud, what do I do? Where do I go? Am I going back to Hershey?" He goes, "Grab a dozen sticks. You're going on the road trip." Go on the road trip, play a lot, play, penalty kill, power play. It really had a good stretch there. About a month after that, Harry said, "We got a break, go down and get your stuff. You're up for the rest of the season." So that was kind of my break into the NHL. Kind of a fun story to tell. Very fortunate. A lot of things had to break well for a guy like me to make it.
It's amazing that you find out from the equipment guy. It's like,
I think things are a lot different now. There's a lot better lines of communication, but the message I got, the lesson I learned is just keep your head down and skate your lane. Right.
I love it. Now, obviously the Warrior for Life Fund is a huge part of both of your lives, and Ryan, you especially, because you're the founder of it, and it's such an impressive program. Maybe you could give our viewers and listeners kind of a quick history behind it and how it came about.
Oh, wow. Yeah, there's a story there. So when I came back from the War College, they talked about it, I wanted to continue to play the game. So, I created
War College. Can I interrupt? Just so, because when you say War College, what exactly is that? Because
Right.
you know what I mean?
So I'll explain that. So like Frank, I went to a state military institution. I graduated from VMI, and engineer as well. So Frank and I have a lot in common before we even met. But to be a commissioned officer in the United States Navy or any of the military forces of the U.S., you need to have a bachelor's degree, and then you're assessed and selected, and you're commissioned, like Frank described. But when you meet your mid-career point, as military officers, we're required to get a master's degree, and there's a number of places that you could do it. You could do it at a private institution. You go to the Naval War College, postgraduate school out in California. There are a number of choices that are out there. So it was a mid-career stop for me. It's about a 1.5 year master's degree in national security and strategic studies, which is the norm. We do send some folks to get a business degree, MBA type thing, but they get tracked onto a different track than I did.
And it's actually like when you say War College, that's the name of it.
Yeah, it's the U.S. Naval War College in Newport, Rhode Island. Still exists today.
That's awesome.
I went to
So
Salve.
it used to be. Go ahead.
No, that's where I went to college in Newport. Salve.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah, we know those guys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The way Gino,
They loved us.
the way Gino
Yeah.
played, the way Gino played hockey at Salve, I think it was basically like a war college.
I still got
He
the
led
penalty record down there, by the way, and I knew all the referees.
So,
Yeah, right.
Gino, did you get to go see University of Rhode Island's new rink? Have you been there?
Yes. We used to do our captain's practices there. Yep, great facility. Yep.
Yeah. Well, what year was that? You may have been
So
one of
I
the
was,
kids that slew-footed me.
No, I graduated in 05.
Oh, we were close.
Yep, we were very close. Yep.
Yeah. Do you remember the noon to 2 skates at all?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, it was like open ice. Yeah, we used to go down.
Yeah, that's where I learned how to play.
No kid. Yes. So when you said that, I was gonna almost bring it up, but then we kept going. But that's where we used to do. We used to go down there and do those skates, or we would go and do our we rented an ice. We had captain's practice there for an hour, like in the morning, to at like 9 or something. One of the days.
Right. Just incredible facility. I mean, I think it went up in 2005 when they finalized it.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Small world.
Yeah, that's so cool how it all, you both went to the same place, but not to the same college. That's kind of cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Loved it.
So now back to so I didn't mean to interrupt on that, but it sounds so cool to go to War College. I went to Curry College, not exactly the same. But I had some wars there, believe me, but definitely probably didn't learn what you learned.
Yeah, I think it's legacy from, when it used to be the Department of War and then that was too aggressive. So it turned into the Department of Defense. So I think it was a legacy name that is carried on. But, to speak about the Warrior for Life Fund and where we are today, I started a small hockey program, called it the Virginia Beach Hockey Club, just so we get on the ice a little bit more. I just wanted to skate more, create an opportunity where it kind of worked around my schedule. So my schedule was I was available early in the morning. So I took some money out of my pocket and, put a couple $1,000s down on rent and ice and inviting people to come out and participate and, help me pay for it. Went in the hole a couple times. And then I had this grand idea that I would start a nonprofit. And my original partner and still partner today, founding partner, was the Navy SEAL Foundation. I went to them and asked them if they'd help us pay for it, buy some equipment. And they did. And we were, small program doing some really great stuff. Started an adaptive program later on, which is doing incredibly well and very rewarding thing to be a part of. But Frank was about 5 years ago now that we met through Tony Cabana, who was a ambassador for the SEAL Foundation, who's up in New Hampshire, and introduced us to Frank. And between the three of us and a couple other partners, we kind of reinvigorated the program, thought about where we wanted to be in 5-6 years later, and reworked it into something called the Warrior for Life Fund. And the idea behind it was, hockey, a lot like being in the military. We wanted people for their life to live that same ethos, to not feel like they weren't part of the team anymore, to feel like they were part of a community, and that community wouldn't go away. And they had requirements on them as well, the members, in that they had to go out there, be the best athlete they could be, check their ego at the door, all those things that you learned when you were a kid. We just continued them on from active component retirees and just a number of folks. And it's just really done really well. And it's shaped up into exactly what I think we tried to design it to be. We wouldn't have known where we'd be today, partnered with the NHL, partnered with the Boston Bruins, Navy SEAL Foundation, Operation Hat Trick, Health Plans Inc. We've got a number of just incredible donors and sponsors that believe in our mission and believe in what we do. And it's amazing where it is today, playing on the East Coast and the West Coast. We just opened up a state-of-the-art facility here, Human Performance Center in Virginia Beach, to really support our programs and what we do. And I could go on and on. How much time do you have?
We have all the time that you want. It's just so fascinating. And, yes, the NHL, you guys just signed on with them, but the Bruins alumni has been a big part of it. And Frank, you can speak to this. And you're on the board as well for the Warrior for Life Fund.
I am. And just to piggyback on what Ryan was saying, back in 2019, when we decided to rebrand as the Warrior for Life Fund, our coming out party was kind of a grand plan, in that we had a back-to-back alumni series with the New York Rangers alumni. We played up here at Bentley University at their brand new arena, which is unbelievable rink. We had the Rangers alumni came up, Bruins alumni. We had 7 Hall of Famers on the ice or on the bench. And we had 7 members of Naval Special Warfare, 6 Navy SEALs and 1 EOD, embed, to use their terminology, 5 on the Bruins and 2 on the Rangers alumni. And they played at Bentley. And then we all got on buses and went down to New York City and played at Madison Square Garden the next day in front of about 4,000 fans. So it was a back-to-back series, a lot of attention, not only within the Rangers and the Bruins organization, but we had a fair amount of press. It got coverage by the Navy as well. They sent a public affairs officer to cover it with a cameraman. So everything Ryan does with these big events is all cleared through Warcom and the chain of command to make sure we're, crossing the T's and dotting the I's. And a couple things happened. One, these games were fantastic. The Rangers beat us here up in Bentley. We went down there and beat them at Madison Square Garden, and they were competitive games, but everybody had a smile on their face. There was no chippiness. It was just fun.
Pressure.
And it was great for us to get back on an NHL sheet again and playing in front of fans that appreciate the game. So that happened. But the biggest takeaway for us as players was to see these guys from the Naval Special Warfare, from the Navy SEALs and the EOD officer, experience what we experienced a number of times, playing in front of a big crowd, playing on a team of elite hockey players. And believe me when I tell you, they fit right in. These guys are elite athletes. They know the game. They're smart. They wouldn't have been able to do what they do for a living. And the camaraderie and the meaningful relationships that they created just by those 2 games, and then through future engagements where they're now, first name basis, communication, email, texts with any number of these NHL alumni. They talk all the time. They share stories. They invite each other over to do things. So that's that's cool. So that was the kickoff of it. So that was 2019. So in 2021, we did it again up in Boston at Warrior Arena. We send guys down to Virginia Beach in July each year to play in the Memorial game there. That's incoming. In fact, it's next week, the Brian Bourgeois Memorial game. And the Bruins have been in lockstep with us all along the way. So what we've developed over time is this integration of elite NHL athletes and these elite special forces guys, and we do a lot of things together on ice, off the ice. And over time, it's caught the attention of the NHL, who reached out to us. They said, hey, we like what you're doing. You're incorporating NHL players, alumni teams in with your support of veterans and active duty. How can we get involved? For us, just kind of skating our lane, this came to us organically. And real quickly, we got together, we talked with them, and they are now a partner in all three of our Memorial games. The July game in Virginia Beach, Brian Bourgeois, upcoming game August 10th in San Diego, honoring Nick Spihar, and our big game in December at Warrior Arena for Nate Hardy Memorial game. And just for people keeping score, that's the game that Kevin Miller made his debut with the Bruins alumni. Zdeno Chara made his debut with the alumni. And last December, Patrice Bergeron made his debut with the alumni because these guys click. We've toured our Ryan and his crew through the Bruins locker room. They've met the Marchands, the Bergerons, the Charas of the world, and it's instant camaraderie because they both respect each other to the highest degree. So when this NSW and Navy SEALs come to town, everybody wants to get involved in that game.
That's awesome. And I will say that I'm going to talk to Donnie Garcia, make sure I referee that game at Warrior this year. I couldn't do it last year. I forget the reason. I had something, I think a show or something, but this year I'm definitely getting on that game because that's good stuff.
December 7th. So mark your calendars.
You guys should infiltrate the college circuit. I'm the supervisor of officials with Atlantic Hockey America, and we have Air Force and Army, and that series every year is phenomenal to work. Like everybody wants that series. That's the one to get. Sure. No matter how, it's the best every year. That rival, everybody says it every time. Every referee that works that game, it's like you can't express how you feel on the ice when you come to that game.
So yeah, that's great. We actually play a game against the Army up in the DC area. Organization that sponsors them called Vigilant Torch. We did it. We've had them down once. We've been up there, and it's going to be a game that we do every year. And then there's an ice rink at Fort Bragg, now named Fort Liberty, but they have an ice rink there on the base. And everybody's like, why would you have an ice rink on the base? And I did some research, looked into it because we all want to open our own hockey rink, but it just doesn't seem to make sense. But the justification was mass casualty, so that if we had mass casualty from overseas or hurricane or tornado or something like that, you can actually use the hockey rink as a morgue and freeze them. So that's how that thing came about. And there's a great hockey community down there in Fayetteville that skates around that rink on base.
I worked in Fayetteville in the Southern Pro League. Yeah.
Man, that's
fire
tough
ants.
duty. Yeah, that's tough duty.
If I might just mention a quick thing about this game last December where Bergeron made his debut. When I say these Navy SEALs are good hockey players, well, this particular game happened to be the rubber match. They had beaten us soundly 3 years prior, and then we beat them the following year. So this game was the rubber match. We had a trophy made, and Ryan and his cohort, Captain Grady McDonald, they scoured the earth looking for the best Navy SEAL hockey players. They pulled from Virginia Beach, from Coronado, and a couple flew in, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, from Africa. And how they got approvals for this, it doesn't matter. But but they came in, and I'll tell you, this game was 2-1.
Wow.
Full bore from the drop of the puck. Again, smiles everywhere, but it was full gas. And it was the only time I remember that the alumni have played a game that ended 2-1.
Right.
And
Yeah. With Kevin Miller, Andrew Alberts, Bergeron as just one of your lines that could have actually played in the NHL anytime,
That year.
even this year.
Right.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
for me as a defenseman, to be able to skate with Patrice Bergeron was great because I'm old and slow. And I'd get the puck in the corner and I'd look up and there he was wide open, circling down. So I know, boy, easy out for him. But it was funny because he, in the beginning of the game, we played 2 halves, and he was setting guys up and, being nice. And then he started to pick up his pace. And then in the second half, he's trying to score. He wants to get on the board. And the active duty goaltender, Sherm, stoned him 5 times. And he didn't score. So after the game, he comes up, he goes, hey, not that anybody cares, but I stopped Patrice Bergeron 5 times. He shakes his head, he goes, but I do. He screams out, I did. He was so happy again. Just to harken back to the experience we saw in the Rangers series, this kid Sherm and everybody on the ice has that lifelong experience right then and there. They can carry with them. And now, and Ryan, you correct me if I'm wrong, they know when the game is in December. They know our West Coast game. There's a list of guys who want to play and do whatever they can to make that lineup.
Yeah. So let me just, Frank's like, oh, it's a fun game, no big deal, all this stuff. So we'll go back to the first game in Madison Square Garden. So I'd skated at Bentley, and you would think that the Bruins would have won there, but it just so happened that the Rangers, they just kept dropping it in the net. And I remember we got on the bus and started heading to New York City, and there's texting going on. We're cutting the lineups and doing all these things. Well, I cut myself from the lineup because Boston's pissed because they lost in Bentley. So we're driving down. I'm getting myself out of the lineup. So we put our best guys on the Bruins team, at Madison Square Garden, if you can imagine. And all the fun was gone because there were some people that weren't happy about what had happened up in Boston. So I'm out of the lineup. The game's playing. I think it was 1-1 end of the first. And Rick Middleton looks at me. You go back in the locker room there. He's like, I can't skate anymore. I pulled something. Ryan, you're going to take my place. So I'm like, are you kidding me? Is
that legal?
So it's the end of the first period. The bus is parked all the way down at the very bottom of Madison Square Garden. So I'm trying to talk my way down to get my gear and get back up so I can go in and skate. And I'll never forget the intensity of the game and what was going on out there. And I'm relatively new to the game, but I can pick it up. But I'll never forget Ken Hodge Jr. was yelling at me the entire time that he was playing his game on the ice if I was out of position by 10 feet. It was awesome. And I'll never forget that Ray Borg, I figured out that Ray Borg is who Ray Borg is, because when he would stand up, the rest of the alumni bench would sit down, and that meant that Ray wanted to play because he was upset about what happened up in Bentley. So we laugh because it's like camaraderie and all that other stuff. But at the end of the day, we all love to compete. And when the game starts, we're playing a game, and it's friendly, and we're not trying to hurt each other, but we're all competitors, and we enjoy that about each other.
That's wild that you replaced Rick Middleton. Nifty.
Yeah.
That's a story, man. How many people could say that, right? That is awesome because he's a Boston favorite. I mean, that guy was a magician with the puck, and he's such a great guy. I mean, you won't meet a nicer guy. So that's a pretty cool, a cool way to get into a game at Madison Square Garden. That's crazy.
That was awesome. And, we've hosted all, I think just about everyone on the Bruins alumni team, for the most part. The regulars have all been down here at Virginia Beach. And, we show them around the bases. We put them in the, in the wind tunnel and, fly them around, just show them what, what it is that we do on a daily basis, walk them around, I think we did an aircraft carrier tour last year and created some great relationships on that. So just, we just enjoy being around each other.
It's awesome. I know Donnie Garcia is the man, but if you ever need a traveling ref, who also can make everyone laugh, I am available. I'm just saying, I'm throwing it out there.
Well, Donnie always seems to raise his hand right at the appropriate time. And then I don't know what goes on with that, but no, Donnie's awesome. He's part of the family also. I probably know Donnie for 4 years and we bust each other's chops the entire time when we're playing the game. It's great.
He was actually on our podcast already, 4 or 5 episodes ago, and talk about an entertaining dude. I mean, he is just a one, class A guy.
So,
yeah, charismatic. Isn't he coming out to San Diego, Frank?
He's not, but so Ryan says, let me step back a little bit. This game in San Diego on August 10th, this will be the first time the NHL sends a production crew to cover the game, and our gentleman's skate we do the day before. And they want to make a big thing of it because now they're one of the lead sponsors. They really want to promote how they're getting involved with the military and support the military. So Ryan had the idea of, geez, can we maybe get an NHL referee out there?
Mm.
So who do we go to? We go to Don Garcia, the man amongst men. The men, all the referees know. So I asked Donnie, are there any retired or active NHL referees who would be willing to officiate our game? Within a couple of days, I had Mike Lego and Shane Hayer.
Shane Hayer. Yep.
Yeah.
They're out. Yeah. They live out in California. Yep.
Well, because we're looking for obviously people who don't have to fly in, right?
Right.
It's still a fundraising event. They signed on and they said they'd be honored to support this event. So we're going to have 6 to 12 NHL alumni playing against the West Coast Naval Special Warfare crew. Last year, we had over 1,000 people in the stands in our inaugural game. This time, we'll have NHL referees. We'll have a bunch of NHL alumni on the ice. It's going to be a great experience for our players, but also for the West Coast Navy SEALs and their families. We do a big cookout afterwards where all the families are invited. There's a lot of bonding between NHL, between team guys, and just our supporters out there. So we're kind of building this big family, this big village that is helping a group of people who wouldn't say bleep if they had a mouthful. Okay, they never ask for help. They just grit and bear it and do it. And when the Bruins alumni got involved, one of the reasons was to maybe help them get a better facility or just grow the program. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, you only had a few bucks in the bank at the time, and the program was bouncing along. And with the infiltration of the Bruins alumni and just the energy and the willingness by people like myself and the Kenny Hodges and the Mark Mowers and Kevin Millers to reach out beyond the NSW community for support. And guess what? It's one of the easiest stories I sell in life. I've been in sales for 35 years. When I tell the story of this hockey community and how it's helping therapeutically keep guys on the straight and narrow, keep them from doing self-harm, to keep their families together, people say, how can I help?
Yep. And
when you show them what's going on, that help just expands exponentially. So it's a group that's doing great things for the country, and they go to the dirty areas like in hockey, the guys who go in the corner and just dig that puck out. These guys are digging the puck out all the time, and most of the times we don't know they're doing it. You never hear about it. And me for one, and I can speak for our guys, are more than honored to be able to help them. And I'm blessed to be on the board with Ryan and help direct the growth of this organization. It's been one of the most fulfilling things I've done in my life.
it's just a remarkable organization. And one thing I'd love for you to do, Ryan, is to kind of share what exactly it is that the Warrior Fund for Life does. I mean, obviously it helps, military families and veterans, but what are kind of some of the things that you do, kind of the nuts and bolts of it, so people can kind of get a better understanding of what it is. And we're also going to make sure that in the links and everything, we're going to link Warrior for Life Fund and also explain how people can donate and how people can get involved for sure, because it is such a great cause.
Yeah, thanks. So we spent a lot of time, trying to bring our social media, kind of profile, up to speed. We've got a great website, warriorforlifefund.org. And we got a team that does a lot on social media and really have ramped up our game quite a bit over the past couple of years. When we started the program, we wanted to keep it kind of personal and not public, and just keep it kind of in the shadows. But the more that this thing has come out, the more we realize that the more the larger audience of special operations guys, military guys, whatever it is, that we can help and encourage through the game of hockey to kind of deal with some of the things that they're trying to deal with, either post-traumatic or cognitive issues that they may have from traumatic brain injury, very similar to a lot of the NHL guys. So, we started private, and then we started to expand the program out. It was all about the therapy of hockey, the camaraderie, and then, from a cognitive standpoint, my wife is a speech pathologist, brain injury specialist. And, I've learned over time, since those times in Newport, Rhode Island, hockey's really probably helped my brain rewire itself, learning something new, learning a new skill, just like learning a new language or doing something as you get older, especially for us men. Your ability to continue to learn something allows your brain to kind of rewire itself again, neuroplasticity. So we were like, hey, this is awesome. And then, Frank referred, how much money we had in the bank when we met. I think it was between $300 and $700, that I had, that I would still rent ice with, on a shoestring, just making these things happen. And it happened organically. It was great. And then we started to get some larger donors and sponsors. And last year at our board of directors meeting, we didn't quite understand what we should do. So we decided to build out a facility next to the rink to help professionalize our program and to really step into some places that we weren't really willing to talk about, other than we're playing hockey and it's great. And those things are mental health, mental performance, and, cognitive health. So we build out now it's about a 3,500 square foot facility with a gym. We're partnered with Sense Arena and some mental performance. But the bottom line is that we play hockey about 6 times a week. We also have individual therapeutic sessions through providers that we can afford through benevolence, that moves a little bit faster than the military or the VA does. So we have certified, providers that do that work for us. And we also hold groups. We have a Alcoholics Anonymous group that meets in there that's really specific to SEALs only. We have a cognitive health group, a TBI group that we have every 3 weeks that has a great crowd of guys that come in there, all confidential conversations, but again, led by the the professionals. But it's the professionals that are in the room that can help with what's going on and understanding what's happening. But truly, it's about the peer-to-peer interaction, because when a guy's struggling, he's not going to want to hear it from a nurse or a doctor or somebody else. Just like in the NHL or other places, sometimes it just takes a teammate to grab him by the shirt and say, "Hey, man, look at me. Are we okay? And let's go play some hockey. Let's go grab a coffee, or let's get into one of these sessions, or seek the help that you can get." And that's really where we are today. And I could not be more proud of what we do. And it's just amazing. And I think Frank and I laugh sometimes about how much time we really put into this. I mean, Frank, I'm probably 40 hours a week into Warrior for Life, all day, every day. And on my team, we probably have 5 or 6 guys that do that much also. So long-winded answer. You know, again, how much time do you have? I can tell you stories all day.
I think it's just amazing because it seems it's a program that started with just guys playing hockey and now has morphed into this amazing organization that, you know, is helping the people that need the help the most, the veterans and these guys coming back and, you know, and guys with the TBI. I got to be honest. One of my, hopefully you're okay with me bringing it up, but I love the show SEAL Team. I don't know how realistic it is. I don't know if it's like, you know, but I love watching it because one, I have a massive admiration for what anyone in the military does, but also it is like you talked about it earlier, that team aspect that you have you know, you have your six. I learned that from the show, right? And we do that in hockey as well. You know, if someone stabs your goalie, you know, a guy like Gino comes along, cross checks you in the neck, right? Not saying he did that, but he did that. So, and so it's just it's amazing what's happening when what you're doing and the work that you're doing is just so great. But you gotta tell me, is that show realistic? You might kill my dreams here, but is it realistic?
I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I've never seen it.
Oh, okay. That tells me all I need to know.
No, I hear, you know, I hear it's relatively accurate, you know, so, and it seems to get great reviews, but I haven't been able to settle in. Are they on like season 7 now?
Yeah, it's the final season, season 7.
Yeah.
They're going to wrap it up now. And they got into a lot of it in season 6, got into the TBI and how it
Yeah.
affected, you know, all the team members and kind of how the military was handling it. So it was kind of it's not just, you know, there's some meat to the story. There's some real development in the characters. I just love the show.
Well, let me jump in because I think it's important. You know, last year, so Warrior for Life, we participate in, you know, some evidence-based things that are out there that help guys with traumatic brain injury and so on. So there's this one 2 months ago at the Impact Forum hosted by the Navy SEAL Foundation. They bring in a lot of the practitioners and doctors from Mass General in Boston, home base. Well, they invited us to participate, and they extended an invite for me to bring along some of the NHL players with us, really because kind of the same animal and still coping with a lot of the same issues along the lines of traumatic brain injury and other things that we discussed earlier. And I extended that invite out to Frank and in the team we had. Frank, I'm going to pass it over to you for who participated and what went on from there.
Well, we had Andrew Alberts come down. Andrew is an ambassador for the Warrior for Life Fund as well. And the NHL Alumni Association's Director of Social Programs and Health, Jerry Jorkema, came down because they're dealing with a lot of the same issues: traumatic brain injury, concussions, alcoholism, financial issues, home issues, divorce. And he's the point of contact for all NHL alumni that are having problems seeking help. They call Jerry, and Jerry directs them like a concierge to where in the NHL alumni's wheel of support there's cognitive, there's medical, there's orthopedic, there's financial. And so he came down at Ryan's invitation to see what elite special forces organizations are doing to concentrate on brain health and to prevent brain injury and to treat brain injury. So it was the Navy SEAL Foundation who said, hey, invite somebody from the NHL. So it was nice of them to reach out to a professional sport, a contact sport that are dealing with some of the same things. So it was kind of a nice collaboration there. And again, it shows how synergistic special ops and elite athletes and organizations are. And I've got to tip my cap to the Bruins, the NHL, and all the NHL teams that are involved in this thing. We wouldn't be where we are today with the Warrior for Life Fund without the support of Bob Sweeney and the Boston Bruins Foundation. Kerry Collins in the Boston Bruins Community Relations Department, and Rob Woolley in the NHL Foundation and the NHL for them to jump in and support what we're doing. Just lets us know we're on the right track and supporting this community and these military men and women.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So, Mark, one thing I wanted to throw in, it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier with your father serving in World War II and kind of that group of men and what happened to them. And then, in reference even to, the SEAL team series or whatever it is, the similarities between today's military and professional sports are significant, and they're by design too. So if you could imagine, kind of the force that we sent to war in World War II. So it was a lot of force, hundreds of thousands of guys, and very small bit of intelligence that went behind their operations. So we sent thousands of guys in harm's way with minimal training, and we just did what we could do to overcome it. There was a paradigm shift in the military years ago, where rather than sending a whole bunch of guys overseas, we want to have a bunch of intelligence and send the same group of guys over and over again, professionals at what they do, Fortune 500 level type guys that are out there that can make these decisions that could be a tactical decision on the ground, but could have strategic consequence. So we changed that paradigm in the SEAL teams, special operations, even a large part of the DoD now operates through a very small force that goes forward. And that same group of guys that go forward are the same usual suspects over and over and over again. 12, 15 deployments, hundreds of combat operations, thousands of combat operations for a very small group of people that just had to go after it repetitively over and over and over again. And I think that's where some of the similarities come in between professional athletes and today's military force.
Yeah, it's just, as I sit here and listen, you realize that there is such a parallel between special ops and professional athletes, but more specifically hockey, because especially with the brain injury stuff, that is something that's real and has affected the NHL. And within the last year, guys with multiple concussions and whatnot. I follow Dan Carcillo, who is very outspoken about brain injuries and concussions and whatnot. And he was a fighter in the NHL. So it's just, listening to it, it's just fascinating how much of a parallel there is between the two, and the fact that organically this kind of happened between the Bruins and the SEALs, and it's just such a cool story that I don't think, like you said, it was kind of private in the beginning. A lot of people have heard of it, but I don't know if they actually know what it is, and that's why we wanted to have you guys on, because I think it's such a great it's such a great organization that more people should know about.
Yeah, and my job now is as the president of the organization is really to talk about what it is that we do. Frank mentioned everything that we do as far as events go and other things. We take all the measures to make sure that we're not selling the brand, or to make sure the SEAL brand, or to make sure that we're not putting families at risk or those things. So, we do an ethics review for everything that we do. We stay above board. We're completely transparent on everything. Every one of our tax filings and every dollar that we have is on our website. Invite anyone to take a look at it. We have no paid employees, and just a huge impact on what we've been doing, over time. So it's pretty special, to be part of it. And like you and Frank have mentioned the word organically, it just kind of happened organically up to this point. And then even with the NHL coming on board a couple of months ago, it just kind of organically happened for all the right reasons. And we're happy to do it. And hopefully we can live past our growth, and be successful, because it's growing so big, so fast. there's a lot of things to track down, and we want to make sure that every event that we have, every Gold Star family that we invite, either publicly or privately, that we're taking care of them, and we're holding our sacred bond with them. And we take that very seriously. So we're a little concerned with growing too fast. And that's one of the things that we have to meter a little bit, but it seems like every event has just been coming together. Every program has just been coming together really nicely.
Now,
That's awesome.
Now, do you guys, you partnered with hockey, any other sports you guys, like especially football is big with concussions, and, any other national sports you guys partner up with or talk?
Yeah, the interesting thing about hockey, though, and what makes it so special, is that it's a life sport, right? You play as a kid, you can never play it until you're 40. You can learn the game, and then you can play it, into your 80s. And there are leagues for all different levels, and it's such a great life sport to play. And one of the only ones that I think that has the grit that comes along with it, has the speed of the game. I played college football, and I stepped away from that. I've never touched the sport again because there's just not an opportunity to do it. So we've been really drawn to hockey for that reason, and it seems just to be a great fit.
It's funny you say that. So, in Weymouth, they have an adult learn escape program on Friday nights, and you see guys in their 40s, 50s, and all their kids starting to play. Like Weymouth hockey just grown because of, I think, Charlie Coyle, and you see all these kids going, and now their parents are interested. And now I got some of their parents starting to ref for me and all that kind of stuff. But if the adult learner play, they go out, they pick it up. I've skated with them before, and they're pretty good, and they all want to learn. It's a great sport.
Well, the special thing just that we've done to pile on that is, when you have a dad and a son that haven't been around each other and don't know how to talk to each other because the dad's been gone forever and he comes back finally, and they're trying to communicate with each other. And if they're learning to play basketball together, the dad's just going to, overpower the guy because he's just bigger, stronger, faster. We introduce the game to fathers and sons together and teach them together how to play the game. A big part of our program is development, learning people how to play, or teaching people how to play. And when you have a father and a son that can't communicate with each other, but then you put them on the ice together the first time, and the dad's falling all over the place and the son's doing the same thing, and they're learning together, it's a whole different bond that only hockey can capture. I don't know of another sport really where you can do that.
That's a great point.
And it's huge. And we have so many stories like that too, that I could talk all night about. Bringing families back together, helping adaptive players, about pulling a guy out that's really struggling, about putting a guy that has maybe found himself to be a single or double leg amputee on the ice with some other folks in an adaptive program where they feel like they're part of the team again. All those things happen on a routine basis here, and it is truly amazing.
It's awesome.
It's a great point you make, because I don't think there's any beer football leagues out there for adults, right? Hockey's really the only sport. Basketball, but like baseball, maybe a softball league, right? But
you get the softball.
But
it's not the same.
But you don't have
the speed. There's not the speed in softball,
right?
No,
I mean, and
it's a non-contact sport too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's any beer wrestling leagues out there. I don't think guys want to go back to wearing a singlet and rolling around on a mat, but that's a whole nother story. Now, Frank, you told the story about scoring that overtime goal, right? And in the preseason game, one thing about hockey is we all have stories. I mean, part of the reason why we wanted to start this podcast was so that people could tell their story, and not just, yes, we're referees, and we've had a lot of referees on, and referees and hockey players all have stories, but obviously someone like yourself who's had so many combat deployments and stuff, obviously you have stories, and I know some of them you probably aren't allowed to tell, but I'd love to hear just like one story from the field, like from the what do you guys call it? The arena, or is that right?
Are you talking about going down range? Often referred to.
Well, or being deployed and being over there and just something that, like the SEAL Team 6 story and the whole Osama bin Laden thing. And I bring that up only because that's a well-known one, right? I had a buddy who was a sniper in the army, and, some of the stories, he doesn't tell a lot of stories, but some of the stories he tells is just like mind blowing for someone who's a civilian that have never, I mean, it never can imagine ourselves in those situations.
Right.
Yeah. One of the things that we're taught early on, and one of the things that we value is just the ability to have a short memory and to kind of compartmentalize what went on. And, it's one of the things that we deal with later when we're like, oh yeah, I remember this one situation where, this happened, and I don't want to call it a flashback, but it's just kind of like, you think back of what happened and you're like, that was such a significant part of my life. I should not forget it. It's like your first kiss, your first car, your first day of high school or graduation day from college. Those are memories that you shouldn't forget because they're significant. I think, a lot of the active component that, kind of served, during the war on terror, or, I think they've compartmentalized so many things and so many stories. So, for me, it's kind of revealed in the way that I see the room or the way that I sit down. I view everything as a threat, and, drives my wife crazy, but, we have to pack the car a certain way because if something happens, I have to be able to grab something very specifically. So those are the things that kind of bounce around in my head that, I would say aren't really normal kind of ways to view the world. As far as, one operation, when you were firing up this podcast and everyone's going around and trying to make things happen, and it just seems a little bit like a shit show.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how
Well, the beginning,
like.
right?
Yeah, that's kind of what it's like when a lot of times it's just a mess, and then you just have to figure it out. I've been, expected to be, the third or fourth helicopter landing on an operation, crash the first one, second one waves off, third one waves off, and next thing you know, you got all the officers and team leaders doing the primary assault on a building. And, all your real operators, the guys that probably know this a little better and are a little bit more current, they all had to wave off. So it's like you just put your triple B team in. They had to, assault a target on it. But, guys just pick it up and move. Again, it's just like being a shit show, all the way to, I've held a subcritical ball plutonium in my hands, hot to the touch. And, so it's just like this. It could be anything that happens. And, the maritime aspect of what we do is significant too. So if you haven't been out in the water, when the seas get big and things happen out there, it can get a little crazy when a 12-foot wave, comes up against a container ship, and that 12-foot wave turns into a 24-foot wave because it doesn't have anywhere to go. So all those things happen out there. So you just never know what's going to happen next. Hopefully that kind of answers your question.
Oh no, that was awesome.
He was angry
it's funny
that day, my
because
friends.
yeah, like Joe Britannia, who was just on, told a story about sitting on the couch with Ken Dryden and talking about his book. And you just mentioned holding plutonium. Like I swear to God, every time on this podcast, someone tells a story that makes me go, what the fuck? Like, that's amazing. You know what I mean? And it's interesting. It's so fascinating because you talk about how you see a room, right? And we all do that. Like referees will go out and assess the building and the players and the teams, right? As a comedian, I know as soon as I walk into, some Elks Hall, because I play all the massive rooms, I'll look right away and see what can I shit on, what can I make fun of, and connect to the people in this room, especially if it's like a moose lodge and there's moose people there. What can I say that they might not have seen, like the, disco ball or something stupid. And it's just interesting because in what we do, we all kind of, and I say, that's kind of messed up. Like the way my head works is, what can I see that's funny? And, whether it's something, that's dark or whether it's something that is a building or whatever. It's just fascinating how everyone's brain kind of works. And you use one of my favorite words, neuroplasticity. I think that word is just, and I say it because November, I'll be 19 years sober from alcohol. And so addiction and neuroplasticity go along because we have to rewire our brains and how they got messed up with whatever trauma we had as kids. And so that's a huge part of recovery, and also a huge part, obviously, of kind of, you mentioned rewiring the brain with hockey. I mean, it's really cool. It's just it's just fascinating to me that there's so many correlations with, kind of everything.
Especially when you deal with a, traumatic brain injury, like the brain is not firing right there because of the injury you had. And then, you've got to do something to make it kind of rewire and recircuit itself. And if you don't, you're going to start dealing with significant cognitive deficit. And I don't think you're going to fix people from traumatic brain injury. Some of it is just the cost of doing business in the NHL or, in the military. Some of it is, you can't mitigate that risk and you're going to have to deal with it. But it's how do you cope with it so you can have you can live a healthy life later on, and you continue to have a healthy family and expand, your well-being. So there's not a fix. It's just how to cope with it. And, there's a lot of science out there that's, not quite settled yet on, what are the right things to do.
Yeah, there's so much more research now. I mean, like we joke, right, Frank? I mean, I'm sure you had moments where you had your bell rung, right? And back then I joke and say my father would wake me up every hour on the hour if I, got smoked in hockey. That's the worst thing you can do for a brain injury. Back in the day, they didn't know any better, so it's come such a long way, even in just recognizing it and then taking it the next step. And, with refereeing, there's guys who get concussed out refereeing because, if you zig when you should have zagged, or someone has their head down and fires a puck, there's those kind of injuries too. So it's not just, it kind of encompasses everything, I guess is my point. It's just, kind of fascinating how they all are very similar.
One of the coolest things I've experienced through my, journey, I worked the American League All-Star game, and Pat LaFontaine was the guest speaker. And after the game, you go up and you have some beers, and I actually sat at a table with him and one of the other referees, Peter Fiola. And it was one of the coolest things. I sat at a table with Pat LaFontaine for over an hour and a half, just talking about concussions and brain injuries and trauma. And it was right at that time. Do you remember when the NHL linesman got punched in the head from the kid that just got hit? So he got slammed into the boards, got a concussion. He's all discombobulated. He's going to the bench, and then he just kind of shoves the referee and kind of pushes him out of the way.
That was Andrew Ference, right? Was it Ference?
Andrew Ference.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. We're looking at it as a referee thing. Hey, a referee just got punched. What the hell? And to hear his whole take on it from an NHL standpoint, from someone coming from concussions and brain trauma. And, all he wanted to do was just get off the ice. He didn't care who was in front of me. He's just hey, I'm in dangerous situation and I just want to get off the ice. That's where I'm going. I need to escape. And that's kind of how he explained it. And it was just incredible just to, hear him talk about it, because he has suffered from brain trauma, and he's a big component of that with the NHL. And you never know where this sport's going to take you. I was very fortunate to work that game and be a part of that, and and sit at a table with him, and just to hear him passionately speak about that and his side of things on brain trauma. It was excellent.
Never thought of that. That Ference play.
Yeah.
He got smoked it was a blindside hit, and he head slammed the glass. And yeah, when you first see the video, you're like, what is he smoked the linesman.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't think his head is not in the, he's not in any place where he can kind of decipher that. So it's an interesting take on that play, the Ference play.
It was pretty cool to listen to.
Now, so, you have the game coming up in, well, actually, no, before we kind of review what's coming up, sled hockey. That's also a big part of your program, and working with guys who can't skate upright and have to, do the sled hockey. You have that program as well.
It is, and it's thriving. We've had one lady start in our program and make it all the way up to the women's U.S. national team. We have another young man that is actively being recruited by the Paralympic team, the men's Paralympic team here. So it's just been an amazing venture into it. And we talk about Frank and I being engineers. Sleds are tweaked and profiled and made to fit that person's disability or ability. So we spend a lot of time in setup to optimize the sleds to make them so that they work best, so that these athletes, just like us, can be the best athletes they can be when they're out on the ice. I really break my players up into two different categories, and it's interesting. I break it up into some athletes have a learned disability and some of them have a disability. When I say learned disability, meaning that they learn their disability later on in life. Let's say that you were an athlete, any of us, that if we would have, be an amputee, we would be missing a leg. Now I learned to deal with that disability. And it's a different mindset than some of these athletes that we have that say have spinal bifida, right? And we mix the two of them together. So if you're a guy that has a learned disability, you're like, I'm really disappointed that I can't do stand-up hockey and I can't do what I was doing. And maybe I'm feeling a little bit sorry for myself, or it's just a tough situation. We understand that. But you put them next to somebody who grew up with a disability, who's looking back at this guy and they're like, this is the coolest thing ever. I'm playing an adaptive sport next to a Navy SEAL. That's the perspective from the learned, the person who has the disability. The learned disability is looking back and going, hey, maybe I don't have it that tough after all. Maybe this is an awesome sport. It's gritty. I get the same feeling and I get the same camaraderie that I had if I was playing the standing sport. So we've seen a lot of that happen here, and it is amazing to witness. And you really just got to get out of the way of it. Like Frank was talking about, the relationship between the Boston Bruins and the SEAL community. It just happens naturally. We see that with those two groups of athletes here, and it's just amazing. We've hosted the Paralympic team, so Parallel Olympic, kind of created after World War II to parallel the Olympics with these elite athletes that now had disabilities. But we host the Paralympians here once a year. They've been here twice. We missed them this year because of a scheduling thing, but we have a great relationship with that team as well. And they're an incredible group of men and women to be around. Frank, I didn't know if you wanted to add anything on that.
Yeah, one of the cool things is that our sled hockey team, some of the stand-up NSW guys will go out and get in sleds just to skate. They call it skating with the adaptive players, and they get such fulfillment out of getting down on the ice, getting in the sled, and going toe to toe with them on the ice. And I've gone in the sled. Ryan's been in the sled. It's not easy to do. It takes a lot of skill and adaptation, and to see these young kids in many cases just picking it up so quickly, flying around and getting off the ice, just thrilled to have just spent an hour on the ice as an athlete. And our program,
it feels like hockey, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it feels exactly like hockey. So the translation is amazing for the sport.
Yeah, and so last year, Ryan alluded to it, we had 9 of the gold medal U.S. Paralympic men's hockey team, along with their coach David Hoff, down in Virginia for our July week. And they did a couple things. One, they taught clinics for our adaptive players. Okay? We had a mixed game where all of our players kind of mixed in with the Paralympians and had a friendly game. And then last year, we took our best Warrior for Life Fund players and the Paralympians and split them up, and they went full gas for an hour And Declan Farmer, who is the best sled hockey player in the world, was out there on our ice just demonstrating elite Paralympic sled hockey. They move, he moves, they all move faster than we can on two skates. Quick, fast, competitive. And of course, the best defender on the Paralympic team was opposite Declan, and they were just killing each other out there. I mean, no holds barred. And after the game, everybody's happy. It was one of the most amazing things I've seen close up in my life, is see these guys whipping up and down the ice, and so gracious with their time with our players and their parents, and just letting them know that if they need a phone call or a little pat on the back to give, to reach out, and they'd be there for them. So can't say enough for the Paralympic team.
When you watch it, if you've never watched a sled hockey game, when you watch, especially at that Olympic level, it's amazing how talented those men and women are that can move like that. They and shoot and pass and everything's going. I mean, it's just like a regular hockey game, except they're not upright; they're on a sled, and it's such a great sport to watch. I think it kind of, I wish it was more kind of in the forefront, because when you watch it, you can appreciate the level of talent and the commitment. It's not just like you just mentioned. I mean, no one can just sit on a sled and play like that. It's remarkable. And Rick Middleton was involved with the national team, was he not?
He coached I believe it was 2004 Paralympic team in Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah games. Up until that point, they had never won an international game in competition. Okay. And Rick was a last minute addition as the head coach, 6 months of prep time. They got an invite to the Olympics because they were the host team. They ended up winning gold, from not having won an international game to taking the gold medal, a rags to riches, last to worst to first kind of thing. In fact, they're trying to make a movie out of it called Tough Sledding, and it's well on its way. I think they're about 80% there with the funding, but once it comes out, it'll be a lot like the 1980 Olympic story. Mm-hmm. Yes, the Miracle. And that it'll be the same kind of feeling. So I'm really happy for Rick. Him and his buddy Tommy Moulton coached that team, and Rick will tell you, because I knew nothing about sled hockey when I took over the team, but he said, you know what, hockey is hockey, and he coached them like it was hockey. Once he learned the rules a little bit, and they took to his coaching very well.
It's just an awesome thing, and one thing, it's too bad, like that is such a great story. Right. And just even them, we'll let you play because it's on U.S. soil, and then they win the gold medal. I mean, I really hope that movie gets made, because it's a story that everyone should hear.
Yeah. And the little bit of the icing on the cake is they were the whole team was inducted into the U.S. Olympic Hall of Fame last summer.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is great. And matter of fact, when USA Hockey, when we have to do our referee training and get certified, part of it is there are questions and videos on sled hockey. And it's funny because I've never refereed sled hockey, but when you watch it and you answer the question stuff, there are those nuances that I liken it to lacrosse. Lacrosse has so many little rules that you have to know, that if you don't know, you can mess up games pretty bad. And I know I did back in the day when I refereed lacrosse, but sled hockey is very similar. Like even just the offside is different, and it's very cool. Like it's a sport I think that should get more play, and more kind of notoriety, or maybe the NHL could showcase games or something. I don't know. I just find it fascinating, because when you watch it, I was blown away. The first game I watched was an Olympic game, and I'm going, holy smokes. Like, I just didn't expect them to be able to move like that, and the talent. And it's so cool that that's a part of your program, and you incorporate that in with just, as I like stand-up hockey players. It kind of goes along with me as a stand-up comic, or a stand-up ref, but kind of cool that you integrate the two of them.
Yeah, and it's just organic. It just, for all the right reasons, it happened, and it continues to thrive. And I'm always it's always one of those things where you go out and help them, or you go out and participate with them, understand how tough it is and how hard it is, and it just kind of gives you some perspective in life. That's my biggest takeaway of it, and probably one of the things that I want to be remembered for is the adaptive program. Just amazing. Invite you down to come see it sometime. We've had Rick Middleton here. He's met with our team, showed his gold medal off. It just, again, organically happened, and it was it's just we're fortunate.
We'll come down and officiate one night.
All right, we are on. We have
Yeah.
a game next I think on the 12th, Frank. No, the game's on the 13th
July
next week.
13th, the Brian Bourgeois Memorial Game.
There you go. Be careful what you ask for.
We can fly right down after our live podcast on the 12th.
Yeah, we're
Right?
doing a live show on the 12th.
Breeze Airways out of Providence, Rhode Island. Low
Perfect.
budget.
That's what we need. Well, I was thinking too, we could come down and we'd love to do a live broadcast down there and have some of these guys that play, whether it's sled or stand up and get their story and hear their story and let them tell their, how hockey has affected them and how hockey has helped them, within this program. I think it's a great story to get out there. And we'd love to come down and share some of those stories and have some of those guys come on and girls come on and kind of share their experiences. That would be awesome.
Yeah, we'd love to have you come down, really, for any of these events. I think one of the things that really sets us apart from, other programs that are out there is what we've done with the Human Performance Center that is adjacent to the rink, where we have mental performance. We're partnered with Sensorina. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No.
You're kind of able to cognitive baseline folks. Of the other tools that we have, we're putting in an adaptive gym right now. So we have some adaptive recumbent elliptical bikes that they use in physical therapy for folks that have disabilities. Full range of folks that you can put in, all the way from learned disability athletes all the way to kids that were born with autism and are in the military community and struggle with muscle tone. So all those things that we're incorporating both of these groups, athletes, active duty SEALs, retired SEALs, along with the community, and integrating them all together in kind of a private veteran center, if you will. All that's being completed, and our grand openings is actually next week, where we're going to showcase all these things that we've been doing. But to go back to Sensorina, Andrew Alberts is one of their player development guys for Sensorina. We're partnered with them, so it is mental performance. So where you get the last kind of 5% of that performance out of the athlete, ability to manage time and space, virtual reality type scenario, used by the NHL, used by a number of Division I teams, one for the human performance thing, but also for the concussion protocol as well. So if you go through the entire concussion protocol, you're squared away, you're able, your dad's woke you up all through the night, or however it works. But you can get back into Sensorina and make sure that you're processing the game as fast as you were before. And if you're not, that's time to take an extra pause, especially for some of these high-end athletes. So it's worked out great. And we're just starting to incorporate it and do more with it with our veterans.
Technology now and the research, and then that's awesome. I wish we had that when I was coming up, because I feel like athletes are going in a little bit too soon or whatever, and nobody really knows, it's kind of like the whatever, so that's great that you guys are doing that.
Well, there's been a kind of again, another one of these organic things that happen. So Sensorina, it's an Oculus headset, virtual reality, hockey training, time and space, like Ryan was saying, different drills, shooting drills, but there's also cognitive training drills, pick and place, memory drills, which on the cognitive therapy side of things at the Human Performance Center, we're working with some of our military men with TBI issues to see if we can help rewire and do some neuroplasticity and kind of have a guy come in with some TBI and baseline him there, and then see if through repeated drills and training we can elevate his performance. So that's a neat piece, that we're taking a hockey training tool and adapting it to TBI issues, and that's one of the reasons why Andrew Albert and his company that he works for, Sensorina, supported us, donated the equipment and unlimited licenses for us to work amongst the community. And here's where the organic benefit is. Some of these guys that have come in to train both in hockey and do some cognitive training, they said, hey, if I get a headset and I go deploy, can I do this downrange? And they're taking headsets with them, and they do have free time when they're deployed, and they're putting on the headsets, and whether they're working on hockey drills or working on cognitive drills, Warrior for Life is helping them extend when they're on deployment. Again, this is one of these things we didn't predict. It just happened. This is one of the couple of guys said, hey, I'm going overseas. Can I take a set with me?
Right.
Absolutely. So tip of the cap to Sensorina, tip of the cap for us to recognize that it could be a therapeutic tool, not only a hockey training tool.
That's absolutely awesome that a training tool turned into something that is now therapeutic, because I'm sure when that came out, I doubt there was any thought of that down the road. It was more, here's how we can help hockey players get more training and become more skilled without ice time, right? And now it's morphed into this thing that is just such a powerful tool. It's just so cool to hear something like that, and that it's being used and guys are taking it overseas. I mean, it's just like my whole mind is blown tonight, because I knew this was going to be good. I'll be honest with you. I knew it would be good, but this is just way beyond my expectations of how cool and the stuff that you're doing, the stuff that you've done, and the stuff that you have coming up. I mean, it's just so powerful. It's just great stuff.
Yeah, we appreciate just on behalf of my entire team, and there's a lot of them that are out there. Really appreciate you saying that, and there's more to come. I think we're on to something really special, and it's not that Frank or I created it; it's just happened organically, and it's pretty amazing. So just invite you to come down and participate sometime and see what it is that we do. You've got to be a better rep than Donnie. So,
hey, I spent a week in the NHL, so I actually have been there. So I wasn't there long, but I was there. So I have that going for me.
So beyond this July event, Ryan referenced that a group of Army guys are coming down in November to play the Warrior for Life on All-Stars. That might be a good opportunity for you to come down, do your show from down there, meet some of the guys, talk to players on both teams and some of our adapted players. So we can keep you in the loop on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely want to. I mean, and I'll be honest. So Frank, you got me involved with Bo the Bruin a few years back, and the fact that I'm a celebrity on a bowling team, that's a joke in and of itself. But that's okay. I always joke I'm the funniest guy no one's ever heard of. But my favorite part of that event every year is meeting the Navy SEAL, the former SEAL or the military guys that you bring in, and just to hear their story, or that's the part. And yeah, it's great. The first time I was standing next to Stevie Casper and some of the Bruins I watched growing up that that were my heroes, right? But honestly, meeting those guys really made that event for me, because, I can go referee an alumni game and meet these guys, which is awesome. But every day you don't get to meet someone that was on the front line, that actually was there, that did, things that I know I would never be able to do. And it's just, that's my favorite part of the bowl with the Bruin. It's just such a cool thing. And I think it was one of the years my lane was right next to, I wish I remembered his name, but it was so cool because you get to interact, after you suck throwing 3 balls down because you forget how to bowl. That's the coolest part of that event for me is meeting the military guys that are there.
Can I tell the story about how you got invited to the Bowl of the Bruins? So, all right. So
You're gonna have to now.
okay. So you mentioned meeting alumni at alumni games, and maybe it was 15, 18 years ago. You refereed one of our games in Stoneham. Okay, and I introduced myself, and you told me you were a comedian and you were a referee and a school teacher and this and that and the other thing. And okay, and blah 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 blah. And okay, nice to meet you. It was a fun game. We had a nice talk. And over the couple of years, I've gone to comedy shows and seen you perform, and some of your material was hockey based, right? I said, "Oh, by this guy's funny. He knows us. He knows what's funny." So fast forward several years, I'm at the Luna Rosa in Tewksbury, right? I'm with Joe Valenti and Kenny Highslip. These are all big Warrior for Life Fund supporters. Their family. I'm going, oh, Mark Riley's here. This guy is so funny. He has such great hockey material. I can't wait. Wait, everybody, when he comes up, you guys gotta listen. And did he tell one freaking hockey joke? No, right? I'm going, and people look at me going, he's funny, right? So I go up after the show and introduce myself, and he remembered talking. And I said, oh, by the way, I just told everybody you're going to tell hockey jokes, and you didn't. So next time you're in, please tell some hockey jokes. Anyway, but I invited you to the bowling event, and you were happy to participate. You've been there pretty much ever since, and we value your participation because you get it. You get that celebrities, big and small, need to give back. And integrating military, Bruins alumni. Sometimes we get some Patriots guys in there, some local celebrities, and just allowing our supporters to integrate with all those guys. And you appreciate standing next to somebody who served in the military. And by the way, they appreciate standing next to meeting you and meeting some of the alumni. So it's kind of a mutual admiration society. Everybody gets something out of it, all to help Warrior for Life Fund, Bruins Foundation, Fisher House, Boston, and Pan Mass Challenge in Dana-Farber. So it's a big event. That this year it's on September 15th at Wamasett Lanes in Tewksbury. So we're very close to being sold out. If anybody's interested, it's bowofthebruin.org. We got about 4 or 5 candlepins lanes left. We'd love to see you.
I already got it in my book. Plan on being there. And so it's funny that you bring up the Stoneham game. So that game, I actually played in that game with the Boston Comedy All-Stars. We put a Boston Comedy All-Stars game together. I didn't ref. Actually, our producer, Josh Dolan, he played in the game. He was very much involved with Lyndon Byers in putting our team together. Okay. And we played for Jake Gallerani. Was the little boy's name that we were playing for. And Josh and I had a fight that game, but his dad refereed the game and wore my jersey. And so it's just funny that you bring up that game. And the Luna Rosa, first of all, great restaurant, fantastic chicken palm, but I didn't know you were there. If I had known you were there, I would have told all my hockey stuff. I remember you coming up to me and going, you didn't tell one hockey joke. And we had a laugh, but yeah, it's one of my favorite things is the Bowl of the Bruin. I just, I was on the bowling team in high school, and that tells you what, I wasn't popular with the ladies for sure, but I was a good bowler. I had my own balls and everything. And so the bowl event is cool because I love bowling, but again, interacting and being a hangout with not only former NHL guys that I loved watching growing up, the military guys are my favorite to me. And I suppose it's because of my dad and the connection there, and all the stories he'd tell. And they had, I might have told this before on the podcast, but for you, Ryan. It's a cool story in that they had a destroyer escort in Albany that they refurbished, and it wasn't the Canfield, the ship he was on, but it was the same class of destroyer escort. So my two brothers and I drove out to Albany with my dad, and he gave the tour of the ship and talked about all the different things and the hedgehogs and and where he slept and the bunk he was in. And his ship was in every major war in the South Pacific, Midway, Iwo Jima. I mean, he was there for all of them. And I guess I'm more enamored with guys that are in the military than pro athletes or movie stars. And I don't just say that because you're on. I just and again, it's probably because of my dad, but I just find meeting guys that sacrificed and stepped up to represent this country and ensure the freedom that we all are allowed. That's something that is just it blows my mind. I'm just so appreciative and just so impressed with the ability to do that.
Yeah, on behalf of all those folks, appreciate you saying that. Today's military, the military that has brought us to where we are today is just, it's uncommon. Our Navy specifically is untouchable. It's amazing, and just like we talked about with hockey, it's very gritty. It's not perfect, and it's tough. And then you factor in the oceans, the seas, and what goes on out there. There's a saying that we have that there are no confused seas. There's only confused captains, because being in the maritime environment is pretty tough. So I can see that. I crossed the Atlantic on the USS Austin LPD-4. Took us 12 to 13 days, course 090. And we stopped midway in the ocean, and we did convince the captain to allow my SEAL platoon to do a 2-mile swim in the middle of the ocean. And it was one of the most amazing things that we've ever done. So as you can imagine, being out in the middle of nowhere and just lowering, 16 guys into the water, and the ship just kind of cruised around us. We did a 2-mile swim because it was Tuesday, and that's what we do on Tuesdays. So yeah, thanks for saying that.
That's awesome. That's just awesome. Yeah, who does that? Right? That's why I'm just so enamored by you guys. No, I wouldn't jump in a pool and swim 2 laps just
I'm
out
down
of
the
nowhere.
gate. My kids wouldn't jump off the dock because they were afraid of sharks down here.
That's so awesome. That's the kind of story that,
Yes.
that and the plutonium. I mean, that right there is worth the price of admission for this podcast. Seriously, that's the kind of stuff that not everyone can, everyone can tell a hockey story, right? Hockey guys, referees, or sports in general, right? But military, you have to serve in order to tell stories like that. And I think that's what makes it so special.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of lag time in between. So, but yeah, again, I appreciate all the great comments.
I don't know how Navy. Honestly, I've been into Deadliest Catch lately, and the seas in that show are ridiculous. And I remember my dad telling me stories of 20-foot waves and stuff and crazy stuff. And matter of fact, we went deep sea fishing one time. My brother, my brother-in-law, my dad, there was a couple other guys, and this happened to be this rough patch that the boat hit. I mean, they were pretty significant 10, 12-foot waves. Everyone on the boat puked. Everyone, with the exception of the captain and his crew and my dad. My dad was eating a tuna sandwich while everyone's puking over the side, going, "I don't see the problem." But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to survive on a ship. I'll tell you that. I'm not man enough for sure. But yeah, it's remarkable.
Last story here. Everyone always asks me, what's the scariest thing they've ever done in the world? And I just deadpan. I know exactly what it is. There's a place out here off the coast of Virginia Beach, about 12 miles out, the track line where we do our training. And I refer to it as Mantown. And you go out there and do some of those boardings. And it's not far from where they film the Biggest Catch. But it's out there on the track line, Mantown. climbing and trying to get into, maybe doing a 40 to 70-foot climb out of one, boat in a caving ladder onto another one with those seas that you just described. I mean, it's unlike anything you can imagine. And it's
Yeah,
scary.
we think training camp is tough, like, whether it's an NHL training camp or referee training camp. I remember training for the Western Hockey League training camp out in Calgary, and mostly because they only sent 6 Americans out there, and we wanted to, beat the Canadians and everything, which we did. But yeah, nothing compared to what you guys do and the training you guys go through. It's it's I can't say enough about it. I really can't. So you have I mean, it's funny because I said earlier to Gino, we always talk before the podcast. Say, yeah, what do you want to, how do you want to go with it? And I say, this one might be on the shorter side because we've tend to do longer podcasts than most podcasts out there. And I honestly, we could stay on here all night. I could listen to 2-mile swim stories all night. Seriously, like that, they're just remarkable. So just to recap what you have coming up, because this, you have the game in August.
Yeah, it's August 10th, 4 o'clock at San Diego Ice Arena. And right now we have Kevin Biesca, Kevin Miller, Brian Allen, yours truly, and Brian Smolinski, who also works for the NHL, in the lineup. And we have about 10 guys who are on the periphery about to say yes. And we're trying to build a full team of NHL alumni to take on the West Coast Seals. It might be 6 or 8, and then we mix everybody in, but we'll get there eventually. So if you're looking for tickets to that, you can go on to warriorforlifefund.org and you'll get directed that way, or you can hit up any of our social media, which you can also access through the website. Tickets are $10. It's a good time. It'll be a 3-period game with play-by-play by Johnny Horrigan, who's making the trek out from Boston to call this game. I mean, he is such adds so much value to all the alumni games we played that Ryan suggested he come on out and bring his talents to the West Coast. And his dad was in the Navy, so he's all about it. And looking forward to having Johnny out there.
He's remarkable. He is. I remember you telling me in the introductions he has nothing written down, just goes off on everyone. It's amazing.
Photographic memory, yeah. And he'll. It's funny. We'll place another team like 5 years after the fact. He goes, I remember you. You wore number 4 last time. You wore number 12. Yeah. Okay. You switched numbers. Okay. I got it. All right. No problem. Just like that.
That's crazy.
It's probably a curse too, but I'll never have to suffer from that curse.
Me neither. And the game at Warrior Arena is December 7th.
It's December 7th. It looks like the Bruins are playing at 1, so we're going to shift the game to 7 p.m. on the 7th. And we're hopeful versus actuality. Kevin Miller, who's on the board of the Warrior for Life Fund, is trying to bring back some of the guys he played with for this game so we can make a reunion weekend out of it. They go to see the Bruins play at 1 o'clock, and then maybe Krejci comes out, makes his debut, Berge skates, Chara skates, Sean Thornton comes up to play, and a couple of other guys come in so that we have a very heavy lineup. But more importantly, just to bring more awareness to the program, more awareness to the game, and put on a good show for everybody that'll come to that game. We pack that arena every year. And the alumni, there's a waiting list for alumni to get in to play in that game. So we try to be good about it, but we like to put our best lineup out there that we can.
So Kevin Miller played, when he played in the American League, there was a playoff game. They were playing Pittsburgh. They were playing Wilkes-Barre. And first call of the game, we were 90 seconds into the game. And like nothing's happened yet. And the puck, he was standing in the crease. He grabs the puck with his hands. He panics. And I'm standing right behind the net and he throws it. And I'm like, dude, that's a penalty shot. And he's like, you shit me. He goes, Cassie's gonna be bullshit. I go, sorry, I gotta go deal with him. And oh man, he was great. I go, I'm sorry, I gotta call this, but like, yeah, 90 seconds into a playoff game, he just reacted, and yeah, every time Miller's name gets brought up, that's all I remember is calling a penalty shot on him in playoff game.
Kevin is one of the most genuine guys you want to meet. He's so pro-military, and just to give him a little bit of recognition here, when he was still playing with the Bruins, we reached out and just let him know about this organization and what we're doing. And we invited him to come down in July just to either skate with us or just hang out.
Yep.
And he couldn't, but he had an allocation. He was a Warrior Warrior hockey athlete. So they gave him a certain amount of equipment each year to do with it what you want, an allocation. He would take his allocation at the end of the season and send it down to Virginia Beach for our NSW guys. Did that a couple of years in a row. And then he retired and he came down there to play a game. And he got in the sled, was excellent at it, by the way, played in the game. We took him out, taught him how to rappel. I didn't teach him. Somebody taught him how to rappel. We got him in the vertical wind tunnel where you skydive. Yep. And it's one of the most amazing things you can do with no fear. He's just there and it's friendly. We went to Conflict Kinetics where there was virtual reality shooting games. He beat everybody, including a couple of retired SEALs.
Awesome.
So this couple of active SEALs.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. Active SEALs too. And he's a natural, but he's so humble and so gracious and always willing to help. And you ask him for something, the answer is generally yes. Yeah, I'll figure it out. Yeah. And he's been a blessing to the organization. Let me just go through him a little bit right now. We've got Andrew Alberts is on the board. Mark Mowers has been a big supporter of the Warrior for Life, and he's been an ambassador for several years. Let me correct myself. Andrew Alberts is an ambassador as well. We've got Tony Cabana from New Hampshire. He's on the board. But we're kind of hockey-centric. We've got several hockey players there because they get it for all the reasons we talked about today. They understand team effort, camaraderie. If we talk about Andrew Alberts for a second, he had to retire from the NHL because of severe concussions. So he understands the whole brain injury aspect of what we're doing. It's one of the reasons why he was a proponent of getting Stents Arena into our facility. And he's very active in learning how to help our guys with better treatments. So we're very hockey strong in our leadership crew, and it's really paying off because they know people, they can tell the story well, they've felt the camaraderie, and we're happy to have them on board.
Hockey people are the best, and there's a perfect example right there.
Yeah, and if you ask any of the reporters that cover any of the four major sports, if you ask them which team would you like to cover, it's always the Bruins because the players are genuine, open, available, accessible. They don't give you cliched answers. A lot of them stay around in the off season, and many retire here and get involved in the community. Some do in the other sports, but not as many as do from hockey. So, yeah, but fortunate to be part of this community, Bruins and Warrior for Life.
That's awesome. I'm making as soon as we're done here, I'm calling Donnie and telling him I want to referee on December 7th. And I think I'm throwing it out there. Maybe for the Warrior for Life Fund players and the Bruins, we could put together a little comedy show. I'll do all my hockey material, I promise. But we could do like an adjunct fundraiser comedy show, one of those nights that weekend. Pack the place. I can get some guys like Tony V and some of my friends. We can do a bang out show and raise some more money and have some fun at the same time. Mark, thank you for that. We will definitely take you up on it. From a referee standpoint, yes, I know Donnie likes to think he controls it all, but I'm the boss. So if you want to be on the ice, you'll be on the ice. But we also have Doug Smith, who I think is going to be.
He's great. Yep. He's a former guest. Yep.
Yeah, he was on episode 6 or 7. He was on pretty
Yeah.
early.
So Ryan, you may not know Doug Smith. He's a Hanover cop. I think it's Hanover.
Yes. Yep.
Mhm.
And he was a boxer, sparred with Marvin Hagler, hockey player, and he made it to the professional ranks like the Federal League and a couple of others just by getting on the ice to fight. Loves to.
Yeah, it's a goon.
The goon, right.
Yes.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Okay.
I met him on the last game.
Yeah, and this year, one of his friends needed a kidney, and he donated. That surgery went well. Both are doing well, and Dougie's been a real benefit and an uplifting spirit to have around our team. So
Great human.
and he's doing the work Donnie can't do anymore. He's up and down the ice, racing up and down. Donnie stays between the blue lines pretty much, and we love Donnie. So
Love.
Donnie does the Aldo approach to refereeing. Gino's uncle. He doesn't move past the blue lines, but he's doing actual hockey.
He's got to make sure the
Doesn't
boards they're not falling down. You got to make sure they're still standing up.
one last story. I know we're going to wrap this up, but your dad Gino, right?
Yep.
He's refereed several of our games.
Yep.
He's been to the bowling event, and Jason Zent, who is a celebrity former Ottawa senator, bid on and won the opportunity to skate with the Bruins alumni. He won it, got the certificate, and handed it right to Gino Senior, Gino Binder
Right.
Senior. Right? So Gino comes out and plays, and I'm his defensive partner. Okay, and we're playing. Okay, all right. And Gino's going up and down the ice, and the squat little guy trying really hard. And in the last 30 seconds of the game, I set him up for a goal. He was so happy. He jumped. He got 2 inches off the ice. Okay, and he was so happy. Hugged everybody. He scored a goal in an alumni game, and ask him about it. He'll tell you that exact story. He's such a joy to be around.
Reggie Lemlin made fun of him. I forget the line what Reggie said to him, but he gave him a good little zing, and he always tells that story. But yeah, it was like he was so thrilled, and I remember he sent the picture, and it was like I was away somewhere, and I was like, "Holy crap!" He loved it, enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah,
It was like a
these are the
little
experiences we love to give people. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, Ryan, before we go, how can people, aside from going to these events, say they want to donate? Do they go to the website?
Yeah, the best thing to do is just go to warriorforlifefund.org and sign up as a donor on there. And most importantly, the biggest thing for us for donors is just people that are sustainer donors. Like $5 a month goes a long way for us, because it just our base gets bigger, and that's a very, very helpful thing for us. We have a newsletter that comes out on something called Constant Contact. So, we're always out there telling our story and talking about what we're doing. I've got a great media guy that used to be inside our formation in the SEAL teams. And, he does a great job of getting the message out there. So, yeah, I would just direct you to that. And, we just appreciate the support and participation. We always ask people to come out and see what we do. And when you see it, you'll feel it. You'll know that what we're doing is right.
Well, we'll put the link and everything in the description, and also on all the social media posts we have from this episode. So, we just want to, I mean, this has been just awesome.
The best one yet. This has been unbelievable, guys. I can't thank you guys enough for telling your stories and promoting your product, and the job you guys do is tremendous. So thank you.
Yeah, really. And mostly thank you for your service, Ryan. And thank you for all you do. Frank, you're the best with the Bruins alumni and everything the two of you have kind of made happen here, whether it's by accident or on purpose, or accidentally on purpose. It's just a great thing that both of you guys are doing. And we really appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us Zebras.
Awesome. It was great being here. Thanks again.
Awesome.
Thanks, Gino. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so that's going to wrap up episode 21 of Chirping Zebras. Make sure you check out warriorforlifefund.org. Also want to thank AOA Studios, where we do our podcast here in Beverly. Also want to thank our sponsor, the Referees Crease, who also actually sponsors the Bruins alumni as well. Want to thank them. And also make sure you like and subscribe on the YouTube and follow us on all the social medias, including the Instagram, the Facebook, and the TikTok. Make sure you follow us on there. We've been live on TikTok the whole time now. And I'm sure when I'm talking, it's entertaining, but when I'm sitting here nodding, I don't know how fun it's been for those watching, but you know what? They've all three people that hung in there. We appreciate it, or how many of are watching, but we're on all the social medias. Like and subscribe on YouTube, and we'll be back next week. We'll be live on July 12th at China Blossom. And we just want to thank everyone for watching. And thank you again to Captain Ryan CROLEY, and also to Frank Simonetti, for my partner, Gino Binder Jr. and Mark Riley. We'll see you next time here on Chirping Zebras.